Uh, so, the first statement I want to say is imprint lives matter.
Oh yeah.
Welcome back, Sally, to this conscious mind conversation so we can unfold and unpack that session that we had just last night with you.
hmm Yep.
How do you feel?
Glad to be here.
Mhm.
Um, I feel good. I will say when I think on, the dream I had when I was a lot younger, with a person that I cared about being crucified, it did bring up those emotions again. And I didn't actually, the weird thing was, and I mentioned it to you, I was thinking about asking about that dream many times in many different types of sessions, but I thought it was like nothing, like no big deal. And I didn't ask about it. And then it just came up randomly in the session last night.
It was an extraordinary event that all just unfolded. And I mean, we've had many sessions together. Even when you were killed by Jack the Ripper, you didn't even cry. And then last night's session, it was heartbreaking.
Yeah. I remember when I was young. I remember I was young. I could have been about 12. And I just remember weeping in the dream and feeling like I lost I lost someone I cared about dearly. And I remember waking up crying, sobbing. I was sobbing in the dream and I woke up sobbing. And it really unnerved me at such a young age because the feeling I got off of it was just deep grief. And I just remember crying so hard that the pillow was wet and I couldn't shake it. It was really it impacted me. It definitely did after having it. And I still think about it. So the timing is just so interesting that it was brought up around this moment, when you were doing the channeling the other night.
Yeah, it was. It's just amazing how these things all sort of unfold. And you listened to that channeling, and then we had a brief conversation about it before the session, and you were sort of like, so he did die because I read that book. Because who was the book? What was the book that you read?
It was Sylvia Brown wrote it. She was a psychic from, I want to say, 10 years ago. I could be totally wrong. And then there was another book. I can't remember if it's the same one, but it was about the two Marys, Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, Jesus's mom. And she also wrote that book. It was a long time ago and I read it. I think I borrowed it from like the library for free. Um, but it was just basically describing how Jesus and Mary Magdalene actually lived and they moved to, I think it was France, and had children. And there was apparently a bloodline still in the world where people were directly related to Jesus.
And I remember because I'm a million years older than you this lifetime, I was reading The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown, and he was basically sort of suggesting the same thing. While I know that that wasn't, a documentary, I sort of like the idea too that Jesus could be, could have lived out his retirement with his grandkids and, didn't have to go through something so publicly gruesome. So I remember the very first time I did a channeling. I don't know whether I was under in a quantum session or whether it was a channeling. I think it was a quantum session, and I had another practitioner take me under, and we asked about Jesus. And it was, I sort of think I had my fingers and toes crossed about him living out his best life and, having kids. And I was saddened to hear him say through my mouth, and I could feel his energy. I felt like he'd fully laid over me and embodied me through that quantum session, which was very interesting. I'd never had experienced that before. And I was kind of gutted actually that he did die there. And so, and then I had read after that, then I was sort of directed to Dolores's two books about Jesus and the Essenes, and They Walk with Jesus. For some reason, I wasn't that keen to read those two books, so I kind of left them to the side. And then when I did start reading them, it was incredible. And unfortunately, as Dolores also had discovered, he did die at that exit point through the crucifixion.
I actually have never read those books of Dolores Cannon's yet. I almost feel like now though, because I've um, connected with him, I actually do want to know about the work because I've I've seen many people describe the books as being just like so informative and they loved them, and a lot of them said that's why I loved Dolores Cannon because I started reading those books first. So that's actually something I would like to look into now, especially.
I got there's two books of hers that I got very emotional about, and I was very surprised how I got emotional when it was the day of the crucifixion. I think it was Anna, his cousin, or younger sister. I can't remember the dynamics of the relationship, but she was there watching the crucifixion. And it did bring me to tears when I was reading that book. And I was really surprised. Emotions, hello. But that was a really interesting moment for me when I was reading that. And I don't know which one it is, whether it's I think it's They Walked with Jesus, because Jesus in their scene is about the secret schools and how they knew he was coming, and the wisdom and some of the technology that they had saved from Atlantis actually was still usable, and they had great connections. Jesus did know about Atlantis. He did know about other off earth beings when he was alive. He actually was trained in some profound wisdom. He was privy to lots of sacred knowledge and wisdom. The other book that I was beyond hysterical about reading, which I recommended to you, Sally, to read, was A Soul Remembers Hiroshima. That little book, it makes me want to cry just thinking about it. So good, so good for the lessons, for understanding what happened, what truly happened at the time of the bombing of Hiroshima. And it definitely gives you a different perspective of what we think about. It did change the course of history, but that book, I really was in grief from reading that, and cried a lot and called in Dolores quite a few times after that, because I could feel her pain, and through her journey, I could feel his pain through his journey. Because she was working with a 20-year-old who never had left their hometown of Arkansas, and she found one of the lifetimes through this subject that she often used. She did recall she had this weird feeling she may have been in Japan when the bomb went off. It was like a weird dream she had, but she was unsure, and she doesn't listen to her own sessions. Um, that book is really good. Let's talk about it another time. I feel like I'm getting off topic, but for me personally, that was a very emotional read. Um, I could, yeah, there was so much to it. I might have to go back and reread it and feel into it. But okay, so for you, Sally, yesterday, all your hopes and dreams that Jesus still lived, he had kids, and that somehow maybe we're all bloodline to him potentially. He's our distant cousin. That is where your mindset was. And because I know, because I've been your practitioner for a few sessions now, that we discovered in your very first session, you had something like 444 lifetimes on Earth. Is that correct? Is that the right number?
Yeah, it was something so big that my I didn't believe it. I was like, there's no way.
I've written it down in some notes, and I remember asking again because you were like, "It seems like a lot. How long have I been here for?" And then then we sort of were like, "Is that all what you've really experienced? Is this any imprint lives?" And I think I asked in another session, were they really all that she has experienced, and were some of them imprint lives? And I remember the number, like if it was 444, don't quote me, but the number of actual real physical lives you had still was quite a lot. Like it was still like 300 and something, wasn't it? Like it only felt like it was only a small portion were actually imprints. Is that, am I remembering this correctly?
You know, I just know it was in the hundreds to the point where my conscious mind, when it heard that, it was trying to actually control it because it was more in the beginning. I think it was one of the first ones we had,
Mm.
and it was almost like I was trying to say no, four or five only. But yeah, it was in the hundreds, to where I was kind of surprised.
Yes, it is very interesting. And so, for those people who don't know what imprint lives are, we'll just give a little summary because we're still learning as well. I just learned the other day that you can get imprint lives during your lifetime. For some reason, I just had assumed that we got all our imprints before we were born. And as Sally just was recalling, she had that dream when she was 12, when she was given the download and the imprint to um, being having the imprint life of the Virgin Mary. Is that what we want to call her, Mother Mary?
Yeah, we can call her that.
Um, First of all, as a practitioner, because I know you'd had so many lifetimes, it was just going to be a quick question to the subconscious. Hey, any chance that Sally had any lifetimes around the same time as Jesus? Just as a sort of, I thought maybe you may have been, a fan of his or something. I never would have guessed. And I was sitting there and I could feel you resistant to share what you're getting. And I just was like, hang on a minute. It's something big. If you're resisting this, then you're double doubting the information, which is normal because no one sort of would. You do not have an ego, really, Sally. You're so balanced and neutral, and I know you wouldn't be like. So then I was a princess, and then I was this, and oh yeah, I totally was Mother Mary, and like this is not something you would fake, and it was even uncomfortable. You could feel your uncomfort wanting to share it. So tell us how that really was for you.
Yeah. So, I was looking around the crowd because when you asked about were you in a lifetime with Jesus, they were showing me a large crowd of people, and I was shifting through the crowd, and I was seeing different ranges of ages, and I was looking around, and then I see this woman come through, and she walks straight up to Jesus, and she's like, my son." And when I saw that, and then I was getting the feeling and the connection that I was also experiencing her, because I went through that and I was her. I started to almost get embarrassed and think that I was definitely resisting, I will say, because I was like, no way, like there's no way I could be connected to her. And I don't know why, but it was like I didn't see that I was. It was almost like it was too big of a person, and I was like, I can't be. There's no way. Like it's just I'm just me, and I was really questioning it, and I was getting embarrassed. I didn't want to say it because I was like, I'm making this up. Am I making this up? And it was just one of those situations. I never felt actually that embarrassed, but I almost didn't want to say it.
I understand. And I know I've had two sessions now where people have given birth. One was a mermaid. She thought that she was exploding from the stomach, and it wasn't. It's just how mermaids give birth. And then the birth of Jesus last night. And it was very interesting. I hope that you didn't feel any physical sensations with it. There's so much to it. It put me on the spot. Of course, I wanted to know lots of details, like what was the real date, what were the gifts that these visitors gave. Did you get a push present? Like I was, there was lots of questions that I could have gone with, and it was Like I kind of felt like, geez, the pressure to figure out. But I also knew, well, we could always do more sessions. But it was for me because we had just talked about you saying, oh, I'm really bummed that he did die. Like that's so frustrating. Like it's so sad. I really had hoped that that book and that belief system was true, and so you were still struggling um, with that. And then yeah, there's so much. So uh, what I wanted to say is when we have imprint lives, it is literally a copy and paste of the full lifetime. It is not a summary, it's not a small sort of, it is directly the full lifetime embedded, imprinted onto the soul. And I feel that the significance of you being 12 and having your imprint of Mother Mary, and for me, it feels that it makes so much sense because of who your daughter is this lifetime and who she is going to be in her future. And I understand that this was all part of the preparation to prepare Sally to be the mother of a leader. It makes me want to cry.
Oh, yeah. The information that was given about her, so with the visitors, that kind of just started it all, with all that information. Because what was happening was recently in the past, it was 5 days, she had two visitors come in, um, and one walked right past her, and she saw it. It was like see through, but she actually saw like the body walk right next to her. She was sitting on a chair and she was looking at her phone, and then she looked up because she felt someone walking, like a presence, and she literally saw that walking past her, the arms, the legs, everything, even though it's kind of a shadow. Um, and she was like, "Oh, what's that?" And she didn't get afraid. But then 2 nights later, 3 nights later, it was within a 5 day span, something like that. She felt something else in her room, and it was a different energy. And when my subconscious tapped in, it was like a male presence, like almost like a protector, kind of strong presence, and then the more nurturing grandma presence. And so it was, I guess you could say, soul family from where she was from, and it was like they were checking in on her.
And so then you just mentioned it to me casually, like, oh, there's this, my daughter's had this experience, and I was like out gardening, and you just shared it with me that she'd had this. And then I felt like I was distracted with my busy hands weeding and being outside with the kids. And I just started sharing my thoughts on that, which ended up being really a channeling, which was uh, in summary, your daughter has come here to Earth to learn the experiences of Earth. She didn't realize she was going to be here this long, but she has. Earth, when it shifts, she's going to go uh, to her family or to their beings, their species. I'm not even too sure what to call it. They have their own ship. They're going back to their planet where she actually has to be fulfilling her duty and role as being one of the leaders in this planet. And she loves to explore different planets. She came here to figure out what density really looks like, and Earth is fantastically not well known for its density. Um, and so, when they say everything's purposeful, many beings are here volunteering to experience Earth. And then when the chapter of Earth is finished and the records are sort of sealed, they get to take home all the records of what's ever happened on Earth and then use it as a great example for their leaders on all the different planets around that are interested in how to have great advancements and experiences and learn from other, not mistakes, but choices. And so Sally's daughter is here learning the density and having the experience. When she goes back home, She's going to be really celebrated. They're going to be so impressed that she was there on Earth at this extraordinary time, and she will have all the records that's happened on Earth. And it's really significant who her parents are, because not only did they nurture her and support her and make her feel safe and thriving in this density. I mean, you were reminded from all of this experience, Sally, that how old was she when she was telling you she wants to go home?
She was younger. I would say like 4 or 5, she would start saying it. And then she actually kept saying it up until recently, about 2 years ago.
And so, what would you say?
She would usually start crying and say, I want to go home. And I would tell her, but silly, you are home, you know? And she's like, no, I want to go home, my home. And she couldn't really explain it and she didn't say anything else, but she would repeat that over and over and it would make her cry.
It's heartbreaking because it feels that she does recall her home energy. Um, and so the information I got about the beings and the energy she was feeling in her bedroom was that it was two beings. One is her grandmother from that home planet, and the like guardian or protector of the grandmother. The grandmother has come into Earth to observe Earth, and she is not impressed. She is quite like like it's not a disgust, but it's just a real disdain for what humanity is doing to itself and how repugnant it's got to be at this point. It feels like her home planet isn't more. They did 3D differently, or I don't even know if they actually did 3D. It's more like they're a fifth dimensional planet and they've got this beautiful balance and harmony. And so they're really happy with how their world is, and it is very balanced, it's very neutral. But your daughter is very curious, and part of her training to be a good leader for the future of her home planet is to learn from challenging density planets to make sure and to be witness of how things unfold. And she's not just here alone. While I think she plays the she manipulates you, Sally, because when I think she wants things, she's like, oh, I just wish I had some siblings, which then makes you feel guilty. So then you probably buy her lots of fantastic materialistic stuff. I don't know. I'm just guessing at that point. But she actually does come from a huge amount of siblings. And this is why she wanted it to be just her with her mum and dad. And she wanted to be sort of center of attention and just focused on and not have any distractions for the parents. So, and this is part of her sort of bragging rights. Yeah, I totally was alone. I didn't even have any siblings, because the siblings are very close. On her home planet, they're very, very, very close. And we did get an insight into a physical brother she has here who is supposed to, I don't know how many more they have here, but I feel like I got a sense of her and her brother. And they're here to experience Earth, and when they go back home, they'll be able to communicate with each other about their experiences, because you can have all the imprints and understand theoretically how hard it was on Earth, but because they've had the physical experiences themselves, they can actually talk about it and like be able to talk and share about the experience of McDonald's food not actually being really of any nutrition or actually any food, for example, but they'll actually be able to have inside jokes, and that will help them remember Earth and be able to share the stories of Earth. And unfortunately, his parents didn't stay together, and so he's really lost some density here, and they want Sally's daughter to be really aware of the energy and be more awoken and in tune with them. So when the shift happens and she finds herself on the ship, she's going to be able to help her brother, who's still going to be very confused of why he is on a ship and what just happened to Earth. He will not be physically able to see his grandmother or the guardians on the ship, because his frequency is not going to be able to be up there. He will discount it. He will go into shock. He will try to fall asleep and sort of faint in a way to just dismiss what's going on. So she needs to be there in the physical as a human looking being to be able to assist him, because she will remember why they came. Even though she still was going to be, she's not going to be unsettled, but it's a lot. And she needs to be, the grandmother is saying she needs to be able to help her brother, because they need to be, back online, back to remembering who they are. But there is there's a challenge. So the grandmother is working with other collectives on how do they awaken those who are still fixated and only focused on the 3D. Because once you see or sense something that's beyond your belief systems in the 3D, you go into this shock and panic, and it's not comfortable. So there's a lot of information there, and it's all kind of just unfolding as where I'm feeling into it. And of course, Sally's got her own senses about her own child, and it's truly none of my business to scratch into what's going on there. But it really helped Sally see sort of the bigger perspective, and I really appreciated hearing once again that all the records of everything that's ever happened on Earth is shared out universally for every other planet to learn from. It's all purposeful. It's so purposeful. So the density and how ridiculous it's got to this point, it will never be repeated anywhere, because people will, and beings will learn from these experiences profoundly, and they love their own species so much that they would never ever 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 want anything like this to happen to them and their planet and their experiences and their evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just, yeah, it basically just explains why, another reason why this is happening the way it is and why we're all here. Um, it's just so important. And I was really grateful to hear about that, because it just gave me confirmation that, again, she's protected, and I really truly have nothing to worry about when the shift happened.
Because I felt like I connected into the grandmother, and she just was like, she had a lot to say, but she really wanted to let you know, Sally, that she is so appreciative of what you've been able to do for the daughter. And it was, first of all, she really wanted to reassure you, she's never going to be alone. She's never going to be alone, and just do not worry about her being alone, because you know that you are, your husband's going somewhere, your daughter's going somewhere, and you're going somewhere, and you are all being separated for very purposeful reasons. And the grandmother just kept chatting away, and it was really extraordinary to feel into it. And what really made me quite upset in an emotional way was, first of all, knowing that you're going to be in contact with your daughter when she's on the ship, because she wants to acknowledge you and she wants to let you know she's okay. And that's going to be a beautiful connection with her, one that you will fully respect and understand. It's not going to be her crying, saying she wants to come home, this is horrible. She's actually mature when she's on the ship, which helps you, because you've got to focus on your old Earth experience. But the other exciting thing, which was so beautiful, is that when she gets back to her home planet, she is celebrated as a hero, basically, for having experienced this craziness called Earth. And she takes her job so seriously, and she takes all her wisdom and knowledge so seriously. She wants to be this really great leader for her planet, and they know that you're going to come to her planet. Oh, it makes me want to choke up. And everyone has experienced all of your own lifetimes to see what you and your soul essence has experienced on Earth. And it's extraordinary, because they've got an attachment to her as being one of their leaders. They wanted to know, well, what were your parents like? And she's like, well, look what my mum went through. and they're all of those lives, and it's almost like horror for them, but fascination at the same time. It's so extraordinary. And the reunion of you seeing her again, and she's so proud of you, and she really wants you to know that everything you went through in all of those lifetimes are going to be respected and learnt from. And it's like she's really proud of her planet and her people, and she's really proud of you. And it's this was something she didn't expect, because she's got such a beautiful family dynamic on her home planet. She wasn't expecting to like fall in love with a human and have this beautiful relationship with a human and have this one-on-one mother-daughter, like this profound connection. So I know that's a lot of emotions and a beautiful bigger perspective of everything. um, just as extraordinary. And this is why I feel um, that the Mother Mary imprint for you was so purposeful.
Yeah. It's it was interesting feeling into it because she had so much love for him, and they just had such a strong bond. And it was like, I guess, preparing me for this and for being with another being that was I don't know how to describe it, but getting ready for this role, I guess. And it's so interesting how everything just connects. And there's always a purpose for everything. I know we always say that, but there really is.
I want to bring this up, and I hate bringing this up. Um, but as you know, it's going to look like your daughter has died when she shifts, and you know she hasn't. You know she's just left her physical body here. Do you feel like that's another component of having Mary knew that Jesus didn't die? Mary also had Jesus come back to share his love for his mother. Do you feel like that's another component to it?
You know, yes, yes. I didn't think about it because I know that you don't really truly die. Um, that's beautiful though.
It's like every mother's worst nightmare, to have to see something ever happen to your children, let alone the emotional thought of the exit points and the death. And we know the bigger perspective, we know the metaphysical stuff, but we're still human, and we're still going to have this emotional reaction. And I think that's why it's so important that she wants to make contact with you quite quickly, to let you know that she is safe and that she is fine and that she is just so grateful. It's like, it seems like she matures so quickly once she gets onto the ship, because what they're doing now is they are visiting her regularly to make her feel their energy. And it's like she's going to be reminded of who she is. So each time she sleeps, they're really working on awakening her now rather than awakening her on the ship, because it seems like her brother is still very, very, very dense. And so, which apparently she's going to love, because he's the older brother. And so she's going to be like, oh, well, I totally nailed Earth. You struggled.
That's really weird that you just said that because she actually always wanted a brother, but she was like, but I want him to be older. And I'm like, well, that's not really possible now. That's really weird.
Jeez, Sally, lying to your child. It's totally possible.
I didn't know, but it's funny because she always was like, I want a brother. I always want a brother. I don't want a sister. I want an older brother. And I was like, well, I guess your dad can be kind of like your older brother. And she's like, no, mom, that's different.
And as we know from, did we make it public what's happening to your husband?
Um, I don't think so. Mm-mm. Or did we? I think he's going somewhere. I know he's going somewhere else.
So he's going to another. He loves density. He loves the 3D, and he loves supporting underdogs who are struggling. And so this is why it's so perfect. The parents she has this lifetime, you being very balanced and very expansive with your concepts, and her dad being really practical and loving and thriving in the 3D. And so she's got this beautiful lessons of both. And so the bigger picture of your life is fantastic, and I love it. And I just feel very blessed to be able to have been experiencing this. I do say, have to say, it was a lot of pressure to think of what questions to have with Mary, given what I've read in books and what I've channeled myself. And I know you haven't listened to the other channelings that I've done with Jesus that I did last year or even earlier this year, but I can confirm that while he has had other lifetimes here on earth, he hasn't had any since Jesus. So he hasn't had a reincarnation. So the information that I asked was again confirmed through you, what we've already discovered and explored in sessions, which was it's always great to have that confirmation.
Yeah. And another thing that was really interesting, because I get a lot more visuals than what I actually can speak out because they're showing me so much so quickly. So I'm trying to focus and not get too distracted by everything. When they were showing me the star that you would call of Bethlehem, it was first like a ship, like it looked like a ship, like a spaceship, and then it kind of turned into like this being with like somewhat of body, but it was mostly light. And then it was like a collective of energy. So it was kind of like morphing as I was watching it, and I was getting really confused.
Yes, so I do know, and it has been discussed in Dolores's books, that the Star of Bethlehem was a ship. And I didn't know it was a Turian. That was fantastic to know. And, you know, we physically, for you, I think in sessions, they showed you the bright star, and it was it we know that we have those Merkabahs, which is a ship, but it's also a essence of a conscious being. And so it fully, we're human, we love labels, and everything you said still is true. Of it is a ship, because it's not a it wasn't a planet, it's not a star, it was a ship, it was a collective of beings who are conscious, and you were tapping into the embodiment of what it was, which I feel like was it's not, I was going to say Christ consciousness, but it's not. It is those that were trying to assist and help humanity at that time. I can't remember the exact words of it, but I knew it wasn't a star, and I knew that it was guiding and very bright. That energy was very bright for weeks, and that was what guided many to be able to find the location of where he was being born.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was getting consciousness.
Mm.
Um, Definitely, it wasn't a star at all. It was consciousness, and there was so much light coming off it. It was just really an interesting. It was an interesting thing because I've never really thought about the story itself. Because I mean, I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to like freshman year, so it was almost like they were like drilling the Bible stories into us, at that age. And you hear it just so often that you just almost disregard it. And then just seeing it, like actually seeing it and having that kind of like confirmation. I No amount of studying the Bible, no amount of teaching, unless you see it, will be such a profound. That was just such a profound experience. It really was. And what really actually surprised me was the energy of Mary was so calm. Like it was like nothing could phase her. She was so peaceful. And I thought that was really interesting because I didn't know how peaceful she was, but it was like she was almost like on this even keel of energy. And it was like she didn't really dip very low at all. It was like she just knew how to maintain herself. It was really, really amazing.
Sally, don't you realize that that's how we see you? It's literally how you are. Like, if I was sitting there going, of course she's Mary. Of course, because you do have that profound wisdom and just that balance and that maturity, and everything about you is truly what you just described Mary being. So yeah, get used to being who you are. And this, while you didn't have that physical life, that imprint life still has molded you. It still has given you that experience and that wisdom to grow from and expand from. It's not like a fake tattoo where you just like rub it on, look at it cool for a while, and then it just fades away. It's embedded with you. It changes who you are, and so for the good. And I guess this is why like it's so important to have these imprints. And we know that Dolores would work with certain people and write books with them. And then she would discover years later that all of those lifetimes that they had were imprint lives. So it's all the details. It's copy and paste the entire life and then imprinted on. And that's why we could get all of those details. And if we went back and grilled her more, we could get more details. But are we detail focused or are we concept focused?
Yeah. And just learning, because I didn't really understand what an imprint was at all. Like I've never really looked into that information because that's something that just is kind of it's new to me, honestly, just the term about it. So to see that it was an imprint was strange because it felt like you couldn't tell the difference whether you actually experienced it or it was an imprint. It almost felt the exact same way.
Well, that's what Dolores commented on too. You could like she in one of her books. She like, what do you mean subconscious? It's not her physical life. Because she had done so many lives with different this one person she had done multiple different lives with to great detail, and then one of the sessions the subconscious said, yeah, this is her first physical lifetime here. And Dolores was like, I beg your pardon, kind of thing, because she's like, where did we get all of this other content from? And that's when they said, oh, it's an imprint life. It's been imprinted onto the soul for those lessons. And then you could feel her panicking, like, well, how do we know if it was them or not? If it's an imprint or a physical or not? She got really confused and sort of, because she had been freaking harassed and heckled by so many skeptics, and she always wanted to prove that the information that was coming from sessions was true, was not the made up imaginations from her clients. She needed to prove it to the world that the information from her sessions, from her clients, was the honest experience of that consciousness at that time.
Yeah. That must have been flooring to
Yeah,
her.
it was, because she had diligently trusted and believed and accepted all the information, and she was growing from the information. And to get to this point of an imprint, it suddenly panics, thinking, well, is this all just nonsense? But it's not nonsense. Someone truly did live physically Mary's life. And then, because it's such an important lifetime, it was copied and pasted to many, or maybe just one. I don't know how many. Does it matter how many people have those imprinted lives for those lessons and those experiences? It is an incredible, incredible experience. And we know that many beings could just copy and paste and imprint many different lifetimes, but the significance, the beauty, the pride, the lessons, the purpose of having a physical lifetime that you had free will with, that you could grow and expand with, that is the true, like, I don't know what's even the right word to say. That is that is profound, because you get the free will to develop that life and claim it as your own. Whereas, getting a copy paste version of someone else's decisions is different. There is a difference there. Um, I would have suggested, Sally, you probably having an imprinted life of that cantaloupe. Or no, as an antelope. That's the.
I could have been a cantaloupe. Who knows?
I've got to say something stupid for the haters. Otherwise they get bored. They might learn something.
Uh, yes, the cantaloupe. That was a great life. I just kind of, was there.
You were also eaten in that life.
Maybe that's why you said cantaloupe.
Fruit lives also matter. Yeah. So okay, yeah, so that was an intensive life to have, but you chose it again because you, as we've already been heard from different sessions, you wanted to explore all the different ways to die. Because I guess in your natural state of being an advanced being, you don't get to die at all because there is no death. There's only the illusion of death in the 3D.
Yeah, apparently, my true self loves to see different deaths and experience it themselves. So that's what I've noticed. And it was weird too, because I was just like, another one. Like I'm surprised because in that session, my subconscious said that she wanted to know what it felt like to get eaten. And I could tell you that with my back pain, for that week, releasing it, oh my gosh, it was painful. It was not fun.
Mm. I think Erin also had some lives where she was eaten too. And so that's what's created like a curvature in the spine. And once we got to release that from her, it was a different movement. And so it does bother me that we have these physical impacts from other lifetimes. And this is what recently we discovered in a session that the collectives were concerned about also, was that while the veil is thinning and we are raising our frequency vibration enough that we are starting to almost recall other lifetimes we've lived, unfortunately the bad side of that is also the exit points. And so if it is a painful death or a bone crushing death, that also is remembered, and that can form and change our physical lives this current lifetime.
Yeah, it was interesting because I felt detached from it. Um, because they were sending it to me multiple times because I was just asking them, a few times a night because I was, meditating. What lifetime would you like me to see next? And then they were showing me it. The antelope running from I guess it was a cheetah. I'm not quite sure. They didn't give me a name, but I just saw like a spotted cat, very big. And I was watching it very detached, like, which was interesting. Um, but I think it's because I accepted it already. That's the feeling I got.
Mm. Yeah, it's incredible. And also the metaphysical perspective of your labeled illness recently, I thought was very uh, important for people to understand that all of these profound upgrades are happening, but needing to have, in quotation marks, an acceptable virus that's very trendy right now in some circles, to be able to get time off work, to be able to really stop and ground yourself and take some time either with family or just stop. You're one of these fantastic people that feel excited about running, and I'm not going to judge you for it. But and I'm sorry that I made a joke about being saved from running. But do you remember that time where you were running physically in this lifetime and they stopped you because there was, where were you running and why is there a big cat in your neighborhood?
Okay, so I do remember, and it was really weird because there's this big place. It's called Iron Mountain, and it's this just huge amount of hill. It's mountains actually. It's large mountains, and we do have mountain lions where we live in the area, and they're there. So I, being the I guess adventurer that I am, I loved running in the wilderness by myself just to, be, I felt so connected, to the trees and like the earth and everything. And so like I found that to be like my thing, my hobby for a couple of years. And I was running up Iron Mountain by myself. It was early in the morning and nobody was on the trail. It was just me and I was loving it. And all of a sudden, I got this weird feeling in my stomach. Like it was almost like a warning feeling. And my feet literally stopped. And I stood there and I was looking around like, what did that come from? And I started to run again. And then this like fear set into my stomach. And it was like, warning, warning. And I was like questioning it because I'm like, what's wrong with me? This never happens. I'm fine. I'm looking around. Nothing's around me. I don't see anything. And all of a sudden, when I said that, in my mind's eye and around me, I felt it was weird. It was almost like they were showing me a remote view of a boulder. So I saw a boulder in my mind, and this energy of a large being was behind the boulder. And it could see me, but I could not see it. And it was not a human, it was an animal because I got the feeling off it. It was an animal. And it was watching me. And I think it noticed me. And because I was running, it started to focus on me. And I felt it and I was like, okay, that's weird. But I was so intuitive. I've been intuitive for so long that I was like, okay, I really think there might be something. And I was like, maybe not. And I was like, just run. Like, don't worry about it. You're totally just making this up. And as I started running, in my head, I heard a voice say, stop. And they're like, turn around now. And I was like kind of questioning it because I was like, but I really want to run. I love this place. And they were kind of like, I was fighting them. I was fighting them and I was kind of like wringing my hands, like, oh, what do I do? And I was kind of pacing because I was like, am I making this up? Like, this is just really weird. But then I just got this feeling like there's something there. And then they gave me this image of me being attacked by an animal. And I got scared and I turned around and they're like, run fast, run away. And I was like, I just panicked and I ran. I ran back down the hill to where my car was. And I can't forget that moment because I've never literally been stopped in my tracks by an energy. My feet stopped. I could not run. They would not let me run. They refused to let me run. And they were telling me, no.
I think I'm saved from running. My team highly recommend that I don't run. I'm always in danger of running, and so my team are encouraging me to. Okay, sorry. I don't know why I needed to make a joke about that. It, yeah. So we often get senses of monsters under the bed or something, especially when you're younger. They did say to you, like we all heard it. They were like, "Oh, she's sometimes stubborn," but they said she does listen to them. But it seemed like you were having a little moment where you wanted to push your free will.
Yeah. Like my body actually, the funny thing was, I was mentally like, no, I'm not going to listen. And they physically took care of it. They literally stopped me. And my feet were like almost like stuck on the ground. And I was like, what the heck?
Can I make a joke about me being a couch potato when I think my team are making me sit down?
Oh,
I've been
yeah.
too cheeky because they may want to start making me run and then I'm going to regret
Just don't run at like big mountains by yourself. I think we all should be fine.
it. Yeah. So every time we do sessions, they sort of remember we've done quite a few private sessions that haven't made it public. And I remember one time, Sally, my friend, where they were like, she keeps running uphill. We want her to just, it was your bike, and you're running, and there's something about you and hills. And then they made you fall down, so you get a little, like a little stubbed finger or, a skinned palm just to like basically smack your bottom and be like, slow the F down. And so I don't think you listened to them. I think you pushed it. I think you pushed your luck so much that they gave you the C virus in quotation marks, just to ground you. What do you think about that, my friend?
I will say that that's exactly the feeling I was getting off of it, even just thinking about it like consciously, because I don't just stop and do nothing. I mean, it's really difficult and like I would have to be forced to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've never, because my energy is so just like everywhere, like blah. And this was probably the first time that I've actually sat and just felt into myself and not had any exterior physical distractions. It was very weird. It was kind of like feeling it's like being in the present, but really being in the present, which was something I've never experienced like that before.
So you are an active relaxer. I can understand that, and you push your body to the maximum. But what do we know about our bodies and changing? So uh, what have you been noticing about any ascension symptoms within your body recently, or even the last few years? What's been going on for you?
So of course I would have the ringing in the ears. I don't get it as often. Um, that actually happened all the time when I was with the walk-in and everything. And let's see, I get sick a lot. I guess you could say it's sick, but I don't know if it's even sick anymore. Like a lot of colds, a lot of congestion, flus. I've had more in the past couple years, I would say. More flus. I did get headaches the past couple weeks and the back pain, which is something new. I've never felt that before. It was really bad. Body aches. Um, Tired. I was really, really, really tired, like super tired. And then heating up. I felt like my body heats up. Especially when we're about to have a session. I literally go from a jacket and pants to shorts and a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this the energy. They already start upgrading, well, not upgrading you, but coming into your energy field to get you to be that higher frequency to get um, access to their information. It is a lot of people can't actually hold the frequency of Victorians if you're not a Victorian. And so, most people here are Palladians, and um, it is interesting those who try to play with the Arcturian energy and they're not used to it. It is a lot to hold because you're holding a frequency that is from the seventh to ninth dimension versus the Palladians that is from the fifth to seventh. So you've got this frequency range. It does take a lot to hold on to, and especially, I mean, that session we did yesterday was like over 2 hours long, and I mean it was edited down for public, but it's incredible what you're putting your body through energetically.
Yeah, and the weird thing was, I know I mentioned this, but it felt like literally 20 minutes or less. And it was like 2 hours, I think. And it was like, whoa, like can't even make it up.
Yeah, it's because you're not consciously aware, so the time goes very fast, which is fantastic. Just like when we're sleeping, right? We close our eyes. 3 seconds later, it's a few hours has gone past, and the kids are up again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting, these sessions. And I would literally probably be there for like 5 hours if I explained everything I saw. But they really try to just focus me in because they show me the surroundings of the area. So I could see the desert. I could see the people, I could see things. I could see that they were talking to the barn owner. I'm not sure who it was, but I could see them having interactions and then like what they were doing. And it's like they're so good at focusing my subconscious on exactly what I need to say and speak out because there's a lot around. It's just so it's hard to explain.
Well, I get it. I fully get it. that a strange, peculiar session they did the other day where they were talking about the Roman soldier. Um, when so he's leaving the scene and he's walking, I don't know whether he was walking home or he was alone, and he was reflecting on that strange event where he just had this deep connection with that man who was not begging for his life, who he kept gazing and seeing Jesus and just having this overwhelming love for him. It was really disorientating for him. So he's walking along and then he sees Jesus in his full glory, and his Jesus has got his arms out, reaching out to him to embrace the soldier. And he is so overwhelmed with seeing him in this full brightness. He falls to his knees and he is just crying and crying and crying. He's had a hard day. It's been a lot of emotions, and he just bursts into tears. And Jesus comes and puts his energetic hand on his shoulder. And the reason why Jesus wanted to appear to him was to be able to help heal him, because Jesus knew that what was really going on for the soldier was because he wasn't raised by his father, because his father died. He felt like he had all this responsibility of being the strong man, but he really wished that when it was really hard, he really wished he had a father to have like led him and guided him and supported him and protected him, and given him all this fatherly advice. And when Jesus was talking to the soldier and saying about, the Lord, our Father, and that we are brothers, and, you've always had a father, and it is God, or I'm not too sure the names they're using, but the Roman soldier suddenly was healed because the loss of his father was such a painful thing for him that it kind of disconnected him from people, like from people's feelings and emotions, because he was in pain himself from the lack of his own father's influence in his own life. And so for him to be told that he does have a father, an eternal father who loves him dearly and would never leave him, and is showing him so much love, it really it healed him, because I don't think he realized that how much it had impacted him not knowing his own father. And Jesus introduced him to Father, to Source, to love energy. It was incredible, but that didn't come out in this session. That whole experience, and it was interesting because I was trying to see, did the Roman soldier see Mary? Both of the Marys, and whoever was there, I was kind of interested in figuring out what he was seeing. But it was just this noise and a lot of people he didn't really seem to care about. He just was more focused on, why is this man so intriguing to me? Why is he not doing the things that I have seen many, many other people doing? And why do I have this beyond like connection with him where I just feel this deep love? It was so confusing that everything else was just background noise for the soldier.
Wow, that's amazing. It was emotional. It was beautiful. And I was picturing Jesus's eyes when I was listening to the session, and it was almost like seeing it from the Roman soldier's viewpoint. It was just amazing. It was emotional. I definitely got emotional listening to it, and I could feel the love in the eyes that was described in it.
I it was surprising. I just thought I didn't really know what they were preparing me for. It was extremely emotional. Like I had to compose myself, because that many times I had to try and kind of shake off those feelings to keep speaking, because the moments where he collapsed, and those, he never wanted to stand up again. He just wanted to just have the world swallow him up, because he just felt like something terrible just happened, and that he was a part of it, and he wanted it to stop. It was just so painful for him to see all of this. It was, I feel from being out of that now, I feel like his body was sort of taken over, and he was guided to do what he needed to do. And it was disorientating for him because, we've got our free will. But I think he was heavily guided to quickly end the life, and to stop it all, because it was just so upsetting for everyone witnessing that. It just needed to be quick, like quick. They said the word quickened, which I need to look at. It was often when I listen back to sessions, there's words I would never use, and I would have to look it up and see if they, did we screw up that word? And often, like, I didn't know that bewitchment was a word, and there's a few other words that they use that's definitely not in my vocabulary. And so I have to go back and Google dictionary it to see what it actually means, and it's very surprising that it actually is quite fitting. So I'll have to look at what the quickening is, I think is what they said, which I thought, I'm going to have to Google that one.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They say words that are kind of like I don't use them like in my vocabulary at all, and they'll say them and they'll explain it in different ways, and I'm like, okay. And I go back because I love listening to the sessions, and yeah, it actually fits the description, and that's even more surprising. Um, but that's just so amazing too. It's such beautiful information, really, with that perspective and seeing it that way through the Roman soldier's eyes.
Yeah, there's lots of layers to it. And isn't it extraordinary how, even though they had quite different lifestyles and different situations in some regards, they still were living with rulers and influences that weren't trying to empower humanity. In fact, they were trying to disempower humanity. And what was really impressing upon me is that the Roman soldier had all the same emotions that we did. He has to uh, follow peer pressure. He has to provide for his family. He has to do his job that he doesn't really believe in, but if he doesn't do his job good enough, he knows that his other co-workers who have got small man syndrome, it sounded, will hurt more people. And so he really needed to make sure his job was correct, and that he did scare people enough to obey him and obey what was happening, because he knew from other experiences that more people would be hurt unnecessary.
Yeah. And, we don't, the thing is with like the stories about Jesus, they never really explained, especially that part when the sword went into his side. They never really, you don't get the full picture. And it's just really amazing to hear the different side of it and why. Because again, I was told that story so many times, but then you don't get the explanation. And so just to hear that, it's just really, really profound. And I know we see that word all the time, but it's so accurate.
Mm, it's purposeful.
Yeah.
Well,
Keyword.
I did not grow up in a religious household, and I do have a degree in religion, but it was focusing on different things in different cultures, and not the westernized ones. So it's very interesting that um, I have to say I kind of avoided Christianity because I think I grew up with some Christian friends who were not Christian at all, and I mistook their behavior and attitude as being Christians. So sorry about that. So yeah, it's very interesting to kind of learn all the stuff from this perspective. Very, very intriguing.
Yes. Yep.
So when I was being a jerk and asking Jesus, would we see him on New Earth? What was that experience for you like, my friend?
So he was like, well, yeah, of course, just call me. Like, just call me. And it was funny because when you mentioned something about baby Jesus, like, oh, can we ask if he can come in as baby Jesus? He, as the man of Jesus, the way that we would imagine him to be, he tipped his head back at the sky and started laughing so hard. he was like, it was like, it just really, really rubbed him like in such a way that he just couldn't handle it. And he started laughing so hard. And it was really funny because it's almost like he has such a good sense of humor. And it was like it was almost like a, oh, you're just so adorable for asking such a question, you know? But it was cool. And just has this cheerfulness. Um, I can't explain it. It was almost like he felt a little bit distant towards me where I wasn't fully in his energy. But yet I could hear him talking. He was when he was speaking to Mary, he was like talking to her and he was there and I don't know, it's interesting. It's almost like an ethereal feeling where he's there but then he's not. It was I can't explain it. I can't explain his energy. It was almost like not wanting to be strong, a strong feeling, not wanting to put an impression too much on me energetically wise.
Hmm. He's come in quite a few times in sessions now, and it has been extraordinary to experience the certain things I have with him. I don't even know if they would translate well if people were listening to it. So my own, what I call now my own personal relationship with Jesus, is a really beautiful one that I love, and it has been my own personal experiences, which I wouldn't have been able to read from a book or get if someone had even told me their own experiences. So I feel like that is really special, and I try to find humor in the most awkwardest things, because you know those emotions that you can feel are overwhelming, and then I just end up crying. So I do deflect some of my emotions. So there's obviously inner work there. And it was interesting when he was kind of finding it amusing that even though you've got that imprint of Mary, you consciously still have your fingers crossed that he lived his best life in France with Mary and had kids.
Yeah, that's what so the funny thing was, I can't explain it. So it's almost like that's what I wanted. But then there was always that feeling in the back of my mind, almost I can't it was almost like I knew something happened like with the crucifixion. I knew something happened with that. But it was like I wanted to believe the fairy tale, you know? And I think they put it like romanticizing it, making it where he set off into the sunset happily ever after, because that's what gives people hope. And to be possibly a blood relative of him um, makes people, I guess, feel like they were giving me the impression of like special, like you know we're a part of Jesus and like we're all you know divine. And it was just interesting how they described it that way, which was, I mean, I agree. We all are important. We all are divine. And I think that's just a way of a human 3D mindset looking at it.
I think people need feel that proof that they are special, and so they have that hope that they are relatives. And of course, we are all one. We are all brothers and sisters, as he said. But yeah, people need this physical proof or this hope, and we can understand that. And I'm wondering if it's more the Palladian collectives need that versus say the Turians, because we do know from sessions that different collectives will have different history, different takes on history, and those certain collectives need different experiences for their version of Earth, and there must be some commonality to certain information from all collectives. But it's the lessons that they're seeking as collectives. It's very intriguing. Um, um, most most collectives want to know um, how things got so dense, to be able to learn from it. And some collectives are still trying to process their role in this in these decisions. Yeah. for the history of Earth.
Yeah. Yep.
Extraordinary times. It was incredible. I still feel like I need to process that session because it was just out of the blue. It wasn't even as if you were even interested in asking. You just said, "Oh, it was such an emotional channeling from the Roman perspective," and um, yeah, I that was the most intriguing. Like, not that was one of the amusing things was that that wasn't even your question if you had had a lifetime with Jesus. That was me being nosy, just wanting to check you out and see what was going on there for you.
Yeah. And it was funny too because I I I didn't think I would become embarrassed by something like that, but I was just like, no way, no. And it's like you want to believe that you're just that random extra, walking down the street and walking past him. Like there's nothing, you just you wouldn't assume you'd have such a experience and such a role, and it really just was something that I was surprised by for sure.
Multi-layered purposeful experiences is what we're going to just label that as.
Yes, now I'm aware. Now it all makes sense. And again, the puzzle pieces keep coming together.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So extraordinary. I love that we can have this journey together, and I love that we are able and fortunate enough to share it. We're learning about this, just within days of other people listening to these sessions, whenever they get to listen to them. So, I feel sorry for Dolores that would take years to formulate information to be able to get it enough to fulfill a book and then share that. Knowing how much things change in our futures and how things are unfolding, I feel very blessed that we are able to have these sessions and learn from it as well as explore our history. And I love that we are, together we are reading the books. We're going to be sharing our take on the Legend of Star Crash because it's such a good book. And we've sort of touched on what I don't think we've really mansplained enough to people is that Dolores Cannon would research the information after she had questioned everything she could from her subjects, her clients, about certain lifetimes that were of significance in history. And this is how she did her research and how she proved the information was true. She knew her clients weren't researching behind the scenes. She had to go and get archived books that were really out of date, and she scoured the libraries all around the world trying to find information to be able to prove what her clients were saying or to discover the history of it. She did a lot of research and she wanted to find out what was truly being said. And she, as we know, lots of history has been suppressed. I wonder if she ever tried to find the information from the Vatican library.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder because she was so curious and such a pioneer. Gosh, I mean, the work she did, like you said, to complete the books and the research involved, it's just you could tell that she loved her job. This was her purpose.
To just, to hear information from sessions, and then I think there was someone that was describing some sort of car or some cart or some sort of carriage, and they described it in such detail that she had never heard of it, and neither had the actual client's consciousness. And then you discover, there is actual proof of this that's in an obscure book somewhere that is out of date. Very, very, very cool, very confirming. As she had to grow and trust this work, I think she really enjoyed the research part because it just kept giving her tangible proof that what the information she's been given is can be proven.
Yeah.
Very,
Yep.
very, 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 very cool. And
Very cool.
of course, I find that I am more focused on concepts versus details of certain things, and I just feel like we're in this rush to keep getting the more information of what's happening and why. And a lot of stuff's happening behind the scenes to help us understand what is happening and why. And it is just an extraordinary experience, and I'm very grateful for you, Sally, sharing this and being so vulnerable with um, your personal information and sessions. I know everyone is going to learn from this information and be able to put concepts into place more about what has had to happen to humanity for all these lessons and for all these future other planets to learn and grow from. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I am so happy to be of assistance and share my personal information. I am more than obliged to do it. And um it's just I feel like everybody deserves to hear this. And I feel like it's more, it's not just me. I feel like people really do experience a lot of what I'm experiencing too. Maybe not all of it, but I feel like it's important because um, it's learning, and we all want to learn and to grow with this information. And it's just been such an amazing journey, and I really appreciate being given this ability to see and experience it myself.
Mm, yeah, it's extraordinary, and uh, as a practitioner, I find it very, very beautiful, and I love being able to do sessions with you, and I feel um, very honored to be able to explore this work. That's for sure. So, thank you so much. I'm suddenly in a very deep, reflective mode. So I don't even know if I am able to articulate my thoughts and feelings now. It's just all extraordinary, and thank you. I will look forward to having a conversation with you again about the legend of Star Crash and that hunter.
Oh, yes. Twin. Yes.
Twin, so adorable, so incredible, and um, yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring that. And if people haven't read that book, they will be fascinated to quickly jump and do that, because we get to learn about off planet off planet animals and off planet fruit trees that come here on ships that we have almost in common day. One of them I think I bought just recently. So it's very exciting to think about, again, just the truth of what's really going on for humanity. And all exciting. I'm totally in a daydream now, so I'll say goodbye. But thank you so much for this fantastic conversation.
Yes. Bye.